It didn't start with betrayal. It started with small things. The kind of details you tell yourself not to overthink. A missed goodnight kiss. A sarcastic laugh when I shared something personal. Her eyes lingering a little too long on a text notification she didn't want me to see. We'd been married just under a year when I first noticed it, the shift. Before the wedding, she was warm. Not overly affectionate, but present. Engaged. She listened. She smiled. She made me feel like being chosen by her meant something. After we signed the papers, something changed. She withdrew. She started correcting me in public, not playfully, but with this sharpness that made me feel like I was being scolded. If I brought up a concern, she'd sigh like I was exhausting. If I disagreed with her in front of others, she'd roll her eyes and say something like, "Here he goes again," as if I were a habit she couldn't shake. I tried to tell myself marriage was just an adjustment. That she was stressed. That I needed to be more patient. But patience doesn't explain mockery. There was one night, late in the year, when I stayed up working on a security audit. I caught her on the phone in the kitchen. Her voice dropped when I entered the room. The way she smiled at the screen, it wasn't for me. She said it was a coworker. Just venting. I didn't push. That was my mistake. I kept telling myself things would settle. That it was a phase. But phases don't linger this long. She started dressing up more for work than she ever did for our dates. Smelled like a different perfume I hadn't bought. I noticed the way she texted in the car, holding the phone low in her lap, angled away from me. Then came the comments. Always subtle, always coated in humor. "You're so sensitive. I didn't marry you for your social skills. I could have married up, but I guess I was feeling generous." I laughed them off at first. Then I stopped laughing. But she didn't stop saying them. The turning point wasn't dramatic. It was a Sunday. We were at her parents' house for lunch, her side of the family. A long wooden table, too much food, stories about relatives I didn't care to remember. I'd been quiet most of the meal, just letting the noise roll over me. Her brother had asked about my job, and I was explaining some recent contract work, a cybersecurity breach at a hospital network. It was the kind of work I took pride in, clean, technical, important. She cut me off mid-sentence with a laugh and said, "He just resets passwords for a living. Don't let him talk like he's some kind of spy." Everyone laughed. Everyone, except her cousin. There was a beat of silence after that, not long, but long enough. I felt the shame crawl up the back of my neck like heat. I didn't say anything. I just nodded, set down my fork, and took a sip of water I didn't want. Later, when I was helping her aunt clear dishes, her cousin, Liam, came up beside me. Quiet. Casual. "You know you don't deserve that, right?" I looked at him. He wasn't mocking. He wasn't trying to stir drama. He just said it, like a fact. Then he walked away. I didn't say anything then either. But that was the moment something shifted. Not rage. Not sadness. Just clarity. That night, lying next to her in bed while she scrolled through her phone, I realized something: I wasn't crazy. I wasn't too sensitive. I wasn't imagining the way she stripped me down in public and played it off as humor. She thought she could do whatever she wanted and I'd stay. That night, I decided she was wrong. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I didn't even let her know I was onto her. But I started preparing. In silence. I work in cybersecurity. That's not a boast, it's just the reality. I know how to trace logins, monitor patterns, track digital footprints without leaving one of my own. So while she kept playing house, I started gathering. Not with suspicion, with precision. The first clue was in her credit card statements. She'd left her email open on the living room tablet one morning, and I spotted a charge for a hotel across town. Not a big-name place, one of those boutique spots couples go to when they don't want to be seen. It was listed under business expense. I cross-checked the date with her supposed work event. The event didn't exist. A few days later, I found 2 Venmo transfers to a name I didn't recognize, small amounts, one labeled coffee, the other, thank you winking face. I didn't recognize the emoji. She didn't use that one with me. That's when I set up the monitoring. Nothing invasive. Nothing illegal. Just quietly watching our shared networks. I saw devices I didn't recognize syncing to our Wi-Fi when I was away. A Samsung phone. A laptop that wasn't hers. Logins during odd hours. I began logging everything. Screenshots. Receipts. Cloud backups. I wasn't trying to catch her. I was building an exit file. I opened a new bank account in my name. Not secret, just private. I moved 20% of every paycheck into it. Rerouted my bonuses. Applied for a job out of state through a friend in the field. Remote at first, then relocation. No red flags. No sudden moves. Just distance. Quiet, steady distance. At home, I stayed the same. I still cooked. Still folded laundry. Still asked her about her day. She never noticed that I'd stopped telling her about mine. The more I acted like nothing was wrong, the more careless she became. She started staying out late on weeknights. Drinks with coworkers. Team building stuff. Sometimes she didn't even make up excuses. Just came home tired, removed her heels at the door, and walked past me like I was a plant she'd forgotten to water. I said nothing. That was the power. I had stopped trying to fix it. I was simply watching it end. I found the emails 2 weeks before I filed. She'd left her laptop open. There were threads with a coworker, the one she used to say was just a friend. Nothing explicit. No confessions of love. Just the kind of familiarity that makes your stomach go cold. Inside jokes. Shared photos. Him asking if she was still pretending to be happy at home. Her replying, "You have no idea." I didn't get angry. I took screenshots. Backed them up. Saved them twice. Then I closed the laptop. We ate dinner that night like nothing had changed. But it had. Because I wasn't a husband anymore. I was a man on his way out. By the time winter rolled in, I was living 2 lives. One she could see, predictable, quiet, routine. The husband she barely acknowledged anymore. I still made her coffee some mornings. Still helped carry in groceries. Still played along with her stories when we visited her parents. And the other life, the one she couldn't see, was moving like clockwork. I had the apartment picked out. Small, minimal, nothing extravagant. Clean kitchen, corner windows, 2 locks on the door. A space that didn't carry her scent. A space where nothing would remind me of who I had to become to survive her. The job offer came through right before the holidays. A relocation package. Salary bump. Start date in the spring. All the boxes were checked. Now it was about timing. I kept collecting, even when I didn't need to. I guess part of me wanted the truth documented. Not for a court. Not for leverage. Just so I'd never gaslight myself into forgetting what really happened. One night she left her phone on the counter while she showered. Notifications lit up the screen. I didn't even need to unlock it. Messages from the same coworker. Screenshots of memes, half-naked photos he sent her, one video where she laughed quietly into the camera and whispered, "Wish you were here." I watched it once. That was enough. I airdropped the file to my laptop and never looked at it again. I wasn't broken. I wasn't even angry anymore. I just felt finished. Like I'd finally turned the last page of a book that had been dragging for years. She noticed I was quieter. One night, she asked if something was wrong. I told her I was just tired from work. That was true, in a way. Tired of pretending. Tired of holding in the knowledge that the woman I married would rather play lover to a coworker than partner to the man who built a life around her. Still, I smiled. Kissed her forehead. She looked confused for a moment, like the gesture didn't match the tone. That's the thing about people like her, they don't notice when they push someone past their limit, because they think limits reset every time you stay. Mine didn't. I had just stopped showing it. The day I met with the divorce attorney, it was raining. Cold, gray. The kind of weather that made people nostalgic. Not me. I sat across the desk, presented the folder, the backup drives, the files. He said I was more organized than most. I told him I work in security. It's my job to notice patterns. We built the case quietly. Cleanly. No drama. No mess. I made it clear, no revenge, no public scandal, no social media outbursts. Just a clean separation. She could keep the furniture. I didn't want the house. Just my name. Just my freedom. He nodded. Said I'd handled it smartly. I didn't feel smart. Just resolved. Back at home, she was all smiles that week. Maybe something had gone right with her side thing. Or maybe she just felt untouchable. She wore my hoodie one morning like it meant something. I didn't say anything. Just watched her make toast like she hadn't been eroding me for months. I took a screenshot in my mind. A final still frame. The woman who thought love meant never being held accountable. The woman who thought silence meant acceptance. The woman who had no idea she was already alone. The night before I served her, I cooked dinner. Not takeout. A real meal. Something she liked. Chicken marsala. Steamed vegetables. Even wine. She seemed surprised but said nothing. We ate quietly. Her scrolling through her phone between bites. Me just watching, memorizing the final act of the performance. She didn't notice how calm I was. She didn't ask why. She didn't know that this was the last night I would ever sit across from her as her husband. And I didn't offer any clues. I owed her nothing. The envelope was hand-delivered on a Thursday morning. She was home, remote work day, hair tied up, hoodie on, phone in hand. I made sure of that. I even reminded her the night before that I'd be out early and that she should expect that delivery. She didn't ask what it was. That's the kind of distance we had, a man could hint at his own departure, and the woman wouldn't bother to lift her eyes. I waited in my car down the block. Not because I wanted to watch, but because I wanted to know. A small piece of closure, even if it came through a windshield. She opened the door barefoot. Signed without hesitation. Still smiling at whatever was on her phone. Then the courier handed her the envelope, nodded, and left. She stood in the doorway for a few seconds before opening it. And that's when it happened, the freeze. The smile gone. Her hand dropped to her side, the paper still half folded in her other. She stepped back into the house slowly, like she was trying not to trip over something invisible. I didn't drive off immediately. I just sat there, watching the house I no longer belonged to, wondering how long it would take before she called. She didn't. When I got home that evening, her energy had changed completely. No music playing. No candles. No TV noise from the living room. She was sitting at the kitchen island, papers spread out like they were written in another language. Like if she read them again, they'd say something different. I walked past her without a word and headed to the bedroom. Packed what little was left, my laptop, a few folded clothes, the charger she always borrowed and never returned. She followed me into the room eventually. Her voice cracked when she spoke. Not the break of someone devastated. More like someone realizing the performance wasn't landing. "You're serious? After everything?" I didn't answer. She tried to close the distance with confusion. Then with anger. Then with pity. "You're really just going to give up?" I turned and looked at her, really looked at her. Not the woman she was trying to perform as in this moment, but the one she had shown me day after day. The one who flirted with other men while I paid her bills. The one who laughed when I hurt. The one who used me as a prop for stability while offering none in return. She said I never fought for the marriage. What she meant was, I never begged her to stop hitting me where it didn't leave bruises. The next few days were a blur of attempts. She tried denial first. Told friends I was going through something, that it wasn't permanent. That I was stressed, not serious. Then came the bargaining. She asked if we could talk. Said she'd be better. That she'd been under pressure. That she just wanted attention. I didn't cheat, she said. I didn't argue. I didn't correct her. Because I didn't care if she had. Betrayal isn't just sex. Sometimes it's in 1,000 little decisions someone makes to prove you don't matter. She tried crying next. That surprised me. I hadn't seen her cry in years, not for anything I was part of, anyway. But now, tears. I didn't think you'd actually leave. There it was again, the same line from the letter she sent weeks later, the one I barely glanced at before throwing it out. That was the core of it. She thought I was permanent. That my silence was loyalty, not survival. That my patience was weakness. She never considered the possibility that I was documenting her cruelty in quiet high definition. I stayed in a hotel that first weekend. Not because I had nowhere else to go, the apartment was ready, but because I wanted one last in-between space. A no man's land between what she had done and who I would become without her. I didn't drink. Didn't celebrate. I just sat in bed and breathed. For the first time in years, it felt like mine. She texted the next night. I miss us. Please come home. We can fix this. I didn't reply. Not because I wanted to hurt her. But because she had already killed the version of me that would have cared. The apartment was small, but it was mine. No framed photos on the walls. No scented candles I didn't choose. No furniture meant to impress guests we didn't even like. Just space. Quiet, uncurated, and real. It was the first time in years I could hear myself think without being corrected. No one called me too sensitive here. No one rolled their eyes when I spoke. No one laughed when I tried to be open. She didn't stop texting. Every few days, a new tone. One week, she was apologetic. The next, passive-aggressive. Then came the nostalgia, photos of old trips, a picture of the dog we'd fostered once, even a shot of a coffee mug I used to use. I never responded. Not because I wanted to punish her. But because I had nothing left to say. I started rebuilding my life slowly. Not dramatically. No big changes. Just the kind of small adjustments that let you breathe easier. Morning jogs. Late-night books. Dinners where I wasn't spoken over. A new barber. A different cologne. People noticed. Colleagues said I looked lighter. Friends said I was back to sounding like myself again, the version of me they remembered before I got married to someone who made you smaller. That line hit me harder than I expected. Made me realize how far I'd drifted from myself just to keep her from blowing up. The divorce moved forward without delay. She didn't contest it. Maybe she realized she'd lost whatever hold she thought she had. Maybe her pride wouldn't let her admit she wanted to fight for someone she spent years diminishing. It didn't matter. I'd already left. Long before the paperwork. Long before the envelopes. I'd left the night she humiliated me in front of her family, and smiled when everyone laughed. The night a cousin's simple words cracked something open. "You don't deserve that." That sentence still echoes in my mind sometimes. Not painfully, just like a compass finally pointing north. I think what she feared most wasn't being divorced. It was being exposed. Because she couldn't explain this version of me. The calm one. The confident one. The man who didn't plead. Who didn't justify. Who didn't post vague quotes online hoping someone would ask what was wrong. She had told a story about our marriage, that I was lucky, that she tolerated me, that I wasn't quite enough. Now that I had walked away without burning everything down, the story stopped making sense. She reached out one last time. A voicemail. Her voice was flat. Tired. She said, "I didn't think it would end like this." I listened once. Deleted it. Because it didn't end like this. It ended in pieces. Quietly. Over years. Every sarcastic remark. Every eye roll. Every moment she chose her ego over connection. This wasn't sudden. This was overdue. I wasn't bitter. Not anymore. Bitterness is for people who still want something from the person who hurt them. I wanted nothing. Not her apology. Not her understanding. Just my peace. And I had it. There's a quiet that comes after the noise. Not silence. Not absence. Just quiet, like the stillness after a storm finally runs out of rage. That's where I lived now. No slammed doors. No passive digs over dinner. No wondering if today would be the day she remembered I had a soul. Just quiet. And in that quiet, I started hearing parts of myself again. I didn't rush into anything. People assume men jump into rebound relationships, go party, try to prove something. I didn't need to prove anything. I'd already won the moment I walked away without begging. What I wanted was smaller, and harder to explain. I wanted mornings that didn't start with tension. Conversations that didn't need to be rehearsed. I wanted to be myself, unedited, unmocked, and unmonitored. I said yes to more things. Weekend hikes. Group chats. Dinner invites. People who didn't know her. People who never knew the watered-down version of me I became just to survive that house. One night at a friend's place, someone asked what happened to my marriage. Just casually, between drinks. I could have made it a joke. Could have shrugged and blamed, growing apart. Could have said something neutral. But I told the truth. Not the long version. Just this. She humiliated me until I forgot who I was. And when I finally remembered, I left. No one asked for more. They didn't need to. I got promoted at work. Bigger client, higher clearance, full relocation package. I accepted without hesitation. The move out of state gave me a clean break, not just from her, but from the life I built around trying to keep her happy. My apartment was replaced with a loft. Bright windows, high ceilings, no ghosts. I sold my old couch. Threw out the mug she gave me. Started fresh, not out of spite, but because nothing about that life deserved to follow me. She emailed once. Subject line, closure. I didn't open it. Because some people don't want closure. They want control. They want to frame the ending so it doesn't make them look as cruel as they were. But you don't get to spit on someone's dignity and then ask for softness on your way out. I gave her something better than closure. I gave her silence. You know the strange thing? I don't even hate her. Hate requires energy. She doesn't have that power anymore. What I feel is distance. Like looking at a skyline from a different country. I remember the shape, but it's not part of my life now. I used to wonder if she ever really loved me. Now I think that's the wrong question. What matters is I loved honestly. I showed up. I tried. I stayed longer than I should have, and I left without becoming the villain she needed to justify her behavior. I don't need her to say sorry. I don't need her to admit anything. I lived it. I survived it. I left with receipts and my self-respect. That's enough. It's funny how long it takes to realize you're free, even after you've left. You'd think walking out the door would be the moment. Or the first night alone. Or the final signature on the divorce papers. But for me, it happened on a Tuesday morning. No special occasion. No emotional swell. I was brushing my teeth, staring at myself in the mirror, when I realized. I didn't flinch anymore. I wasn't waiting to be interrupted. I wasn't planning how to avoid being ridiculed. I wasn't preparing for a sarcastic jab disguised as a joke. I was just, a man in a bathroom. Safe in his own skin. People think healing looks like triumph. It doesn't. It looks like normalcy. It looks like making your coffee exactly how you like it. Walking into your home and knowing nothing in it hates you. Talking without being edited. Laughing without checking who's watching. That's what I have now. Not happiness, exactly. Not yet. But peace. And that's a better foundation. She moved on, I heard. New job. Same city. Probably the same stories, how I checked out, how she gave everything, how I blindsided her. Let her talk. Let her stitch together a version of the truth that makes her feel noble. She has every right to tell her side. And I have every right not to care. I haven't dated seriously since. A few quiet dinners, some coffee shop conversations that never led anywhere. I'm not rushing it. Because I finally like the man I'm alone with. And I spent too long being with someone who didn't. Sometimes I think back to that Sunday lunch. The table. Her laughter. The quiet afterward. The way her cousin leaned in and said, "You don't deserve that." That moment saved me. Not because it gave me the strength to leave, but because it gave me permission to believe my own instincts. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't too sensitive. I was being worn down, one casual insult at a time, by someone who believed love meant dominance and jokes meant cruelty. And now? Now I measure love by a different standard. Does it make me smaller? Or does it make me more of who I am? The best part of leaving wasn't freedom. It was remembering I never needed her to validate my worth. I just needed to stop standing in a place where it was constantly questioned. So that's the story. Not a tragedy. Not a revenge fantasy. Just the truth of how a man finally listened to the voice inside him that said, "You've had enough." And when I walked away, I didn't slam the door. I closed it. Locked it. And kept walking. Not because I was broken. But because I was finally whole.